The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Welcome to another show of View on Public Safety. My name is Richard Aguiar. I'm the Chief of Special Services and the Director of Fall River Emergency Management. Today I have Lieutenant Charles Holman with me today. He is the EMS Logistics Chief. He's a lieutenant, but he's the Logistics Operations Chief, I should say, for all the maintenance of vehicles. So Lieutenant, let's start off. How many medical rescues do you actually have now in the city?
Up and running, we have about 13. There are medic 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which are the frontline 911 trucks, and then there are a couple of the MIH trucks that do the transports from hospital to hospital, interfacility transports. So there's about 13 running every day.
So you have your hands full with all the maintenance and stuff, and make sure everything is properly maintained and all the equipment in the ambulances, correct? Is that your main job?
Yeah, my main job, me and my captain and I, we basically do all the logistics for the department to keep these trucks up and running. We're in close contact with fleet maintenance, and we get these trucks up usually 2 a day, Monday through Friday. They come up to the shop for PM or maintenance just to make sure that they're up and running. They have the fluids they need in the engines. Anything that goes wrong with them that comes into operations, we delegate to the shop to fix and get those trucks up and running and supplied.
Good. Now, how about the ordering of supplies now? I hear sometimes you have to go to Charlton or St. Anne's to get meds. Is that a different ordering procedure, right?
Correct. So we have our main supply option, which is the bulk, which is, the bandages, the meds and stuff. If we use medications, a lot of them we can pre-order, but there are certain medications like the narcotics that we do go to the hospital and we'll exchange what we use. We'll go to the pharmacy with the run report and the doctor's signature, and we'll get a replacement from the pharmacy there.
And you have to make sure everything is up and running. And how about the spare apparatus, the spare ambulances that you guys have?
Right now, at the moment, all of our spares are up and running as pieces. So that's the thing too with some of these trucks. Our fleet maintenance can't handle it, or it's under a warranty issue where it has to go out. So the spares are active. We have about five or six spare ambulances that are ready to go. So these crews just grab minimal equipment and they go into the spare truck, so their downtime swapping over trucks is minimal. So
when you have to decon an ambulance, for an example, so that's taken out of service, and you have to put a spare ambulance in service, or you don't put it in service until the ambulance is being deconned?
So while the ambulance is being deconned after a call, it'll usually remain out of service. It should remain out of service and get cleaned, disinfectant, top to bottom. We generally don't put a spare ambulance in service because the crews are fairly good at getting these trucks cleaned and prepared for the next call. We're a busy system. We do about 35,000 a year or something like that. So these crews are good at getting back in service. We do use mutual aid. We try not to, but at certain points the city overwhelms us and we need to. But these crews are good at getting back in service.
MCI events.
Yes.
Large-scale events. Now, what is your preparation for all of that? Now, is every ambulance equipped for those events, or you have certain ones that are equipped for those events?
So every ambulance is equipped to handle MCIs to a certain point, but once those calls are made to initiate the MCI, we do have resources that do come in, which is where operations will come in and we'll manage, the back-end logistics. Like you have off-duty crews coming in, you're going to need radios. You're going to need equipment. We work with the command to make sure that the ambulances coming in to stage at MCIs are staging where they're supposed to be and that they're ready to go. Basically any supplies that needed, say oxygen bottles, they're running out. We have the ability to refill those bottles at one of our stations so we don't have to rely on what we've ordered for those portable tanks. They're also, that would be running around back and forth, but there's a lot of logistics that go with like MCIs, like we saw at Gabriel House and certain things like those. Just large scale events, there's just a lot of people and a lot of communications that need to come together for it to work well.
Yeah, I know at Gabriel House Fire, EMCI, that's mass. So we had like 2 or 3 stations set up for the displaced from Gabriel House, and I know you guys were doing a great job taking care of those people. So what were some of the services that they actually needed there? So MCI is a mass casualty incident, for those of you that doesn't know that. So what are some of the services that they needed there, some of those people, besides oxygen and?
Well, they needed treatment, obviously, from coming out of the building. Other things where it was more so the next day, you know, the recouping, where we had to figure out where people went. We had really good tracking of that with the triage and the transport from the MCI grounds. We had really good communication with the hospitals trying to figure it out. All of their medications that were on scene had come out of temperature. So they were way too high. So theoretically, they're all expired and spoiled. So we were on the phone with their providers and their insurance companies explaining, like, there was a fire, their meds are no good, we need to replace this. So we had to go back and forth with the insurance companies and organize who went where, who went with family, who went to the hospital. So that was the logistic part of that, was claiming really grounds on controlling that aspect. And then placing people, we had to place people, or we did place people in certain things. One of our shelters over the winter, they opened up for us, Spindle City Church. They opened up, we went down there, we housed a bunch of people there until we could just place them and get them places. So
talking about Spindle City, once I knew it was a mass situation there, a mass casualty situation, I pulled the plug on the, that's the Tomeo Center on Bay Street. And, you know, talking about that, I mean, those people down there were so generous and so helpful for those displaced families. I think we had like 40 people there at the time.
About, 40 people.
And they were, you know, once we had to evacuate the building, we had them staged when your people were taking care of them. I called the buses in, the buses transported them down to Tomeo Center. So the evacuation plan worked great. And you know, everything seemed at that point worked side by side with fire, EMA, police, EMS. We all worked together to coordinate the efforts of those poor victims that were displaced. So you have here moving trucks and equipment as needed.
Yeah, so back to the logistics about trucks coming up. Like I said, some of these vehicles need to go to outside sources for maintenance. I'm in charge, well, my captain and I are in charge of getting these trucks to outside fleet maintenance, whether it be a dealership around Massachusetts, Bristol County, or wherever it may be. I know one of our vehicles is in Plymouth, so they go out to get fixed equipment. A lot of times we used to bring the trucks out of service up to headquarters to get an in-service on an item or a piece of equipment. Now that we have a little bit more administration, I'm able to get in the truck, bring this equipment out to them, which leaves this truck in service. We don't have to pull it out for 5, 10, 15 minutes to do an in-service and teach them on equipment. I can go out to the field. I call it my picnic table lessons. You know, there's a picnic table at Charlton and St. Anne's, and that's usually where I give my in-services or fix equipment that needs to be done. It's just another way to keep these trucks in service up and running.
So I remember the shop used to take your medical rescues to the shop, and the state would inspect them and all that. That still happens now?
Yeah, that happens every year, actually. It's going to happen the 23rd of this month. It's coming up. So operations has been really busy getting down to the nitty-gritty of these trucks. It's, in the States particular, they'll open up your cabinet and they'll pick out your Band-Aids, for example, and they'll count. If you have to have 6 and you have 5, they'll tell you need 6, and you get a mark on your paper. If you can fix it during the inspection, it's a mark. If you can't or don't fix it during the inspection, it's a different mark. That's how they keep track. But that happens every year. We have to apply for our license to operate every year. We have to apply for our medication licenses, our narcotic licenses. So there's a lot on the back end, not just on the road, that happens.
But as far as the vehicles now, they're pretty well new, updated. Back in the day, they were like 10, 15 years out before they were replaced. Now they're constantly being replaced. So it's not a problem anymore with poor maintenance or poor condition of the trucks. It's more of the stocking and stuff such as that, correct?
Correct. These trucks, I think the oldest one, the oldest frontline truck we have is a 22 or a 2023. These trucks are new. It's just the city. The city takes a beating on these trucks. These trucks, like I said, they do about 35,000. I did the math when I was doing QA. For the 6 frontline trucks, that's 85 calls in a 24-hour period. And if you break that down, that's about 17 calls a truck in a 24-hour period. So these trucks are running. It's just the maintenance, the miles, the hours. And a lot of times, it's not just the miles. It's the hours, the engine hours. So if the engine hours are high, that's how you do the oil changes, per engine hours, not mileage. It's just a lot to do then.
So the maintenance program is better today than it used to be, because
Oh, absolutely.
you're on top of this, not like it was back in the day. Not to criticize
Yeah.
back in the day, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Things are more lax back in the day. Now you have
Yeah.
to, all these engines are they're different type of engines, so you have to keep them updated to keep the trucks running.
Computer chips.
Yeah,
and
computer chips, right.
The equipment to read error codes and stuff like that is expensive too.
Yeah.
But the shop is great. Like I said, we get 2 trucks up a day for maintenance and just general PM of the truck, top to bottom. Every Sunday, it's called the light duty check, where the crews actually go through the truck and they make sure that the engine oil is fine and stuff. Any issues, they call up or they file a report. We get those through our system, our Aldertech, and then we can address that and get those trucks up.
So how about working with the vendors and on warranties? Is that part of your job as well, to keep up
Yep.
with that stuff?
Yeah, so with the monitors, the Zoll monitor that we use, the vent that we use, the pumps that we use, those are all manufacturer warranted. So once a year, like Stryker is, they're coming in, unfortunately, the day after the state, but they're coming in to maintain all of our equipment. They come out every year, they do an inspection top to bottom, batteries, because they're electric powered, the power load systems that load the stretchers in. So if anything's wrong, we'll call Zoll or Stryker, and we'll work with them to come out to our facility or operations to fix the equipment or maintain it.
So you have a lot of new paramedics and EMTs, so your job with the in-training service and education, you must be a pretty busy guy with your staff, right? With the captain?
Yeah, so in my office, it's myself, captain of operations, the captain and lieutenant of training. So we work really close together and we try and put together programs and training that benefit the crews. So when we're out on the road, we talk to the crews and they tell us what they want, what they need, and we'll work with training to get them programs, to get them the training they want, plus the training they need to maintain certification and stuff like that. But there's, we have FTOs, field training officers. They go out and they'll train the new providers. Whether they're experienced providers or not, the experienced providers may not get as much ride time or require as much ride time with their FTO, but they all follow the same program. So these FTOs are well trained. They're trained by operations for the application of the training side of things. So training will come out with some policy and then operations will try and implement it. And if it doesn't implement well, we come back and we tweak it, adjust it, and then we implement it again until it works the way we need it to or we want it to.
So how many EMTs and paramedics does the city have now?
At the time, it is about 120-ish.
120.
Yeah, I'm not. That's a rough number. I'm not sure if that includes support staff, like clerks, administration, stuff like that. It includes the providers. It's about 120 for all these trucks.
So we have paramedics and we have EMTs.
Yes.
And people may not understand what the difference is. And a paramedic is more advanced, almost like a nurse, and an EMT is just under a paramedic. So can you just explain that so people understand what that is?
Yeah, so it's not so much the EMT, the certification level is under a paramedic. So there's EMT, advanced EMT, which took the place of the old intermediate certification. And then there's paramedic. So the difference between an EMT and a paramedic is basically a knowledge base. EMTs can do our skills if they're trained well. It's the knowledge base as to the cardiac aspect of things, reading the EKGs. EMTs, they're not trained to do that. They could be, but the paramedic has a better knowledge base of the medications, how they work, more pathophysiology of mechanisms and in that. And then the advanced EMT is kind of in between, where the EMT does like first aid, a couple drugs, not many drugs. And then the advanced EMT can do certain things like IV placement, and they all can do blood sugars for diabetics and stuff like that. And there's the EMT school is about 3 months, and the medic school will take you about a year and a half sometimes.
Emergency medical services have come a long way, and I first got into all this stuff way back in the day. Throw the person in the back of the ambulance, maybe with a police officer. I remember this one guy driving the ambulance. Back in the day, we had a vet's ambulance, and it was just a firefighter drove the ambulance, and if you're lucky, your cop went in the back with you and maybe stuck an oxygen match on you or put a Band-Aid on you if you were bleeding. But it's come so far today because you guys save so many lives today with all your advanced medications in the ambulances. So the ambulance is like a mini emergency room on wheels in a lot of cases, correct?
I explained this to somebody the other day. I was like, so my job is kind of like a nurse and a doctor mixed. I can do some things a nurse can do, I can do some things a doctor can do, but not to that extent. And my ER rolls down the street. You know, it's a box. I have the ability to intubate. The same thing, cardiac arrest in the hospital, it happens in the back of my truck the same exact way that it would in a hospital, except we just happen to go to the house or in the back of the ambulance instead of already being in the ER or anywhere else. So but it's come a long way. There are a lot of things that within a matter of minutes we can turn around and save a life. Some cardiac conditions like congestive heart failure, we can usually turn those around fairly well and get good results. So like you were saying, back in the day, it was very minimal, and there wasn't a lot of education about emergency services. It all came about from Vietnam with the helicopters and medevacing, that they saw a need for it. So that's kind of where EMS evolved, and the fire department got their ambulances, I believe, from civilian ambulance EMTs from Charlton. That's where they were, and then they came over to the fire department. So that's how EMS ended up with the fire department at one point. But I think over 5 years, we've been our own division and department.
So a paramedic can give medications. What's the word? IV.
Yeah.
So they do all that stuff now, whereas before you couldn't do any of that stuff.
Yeah, and every year it changes. Like we have about roughly about 40 medications at our disposal right now, and every year it changes. I think down the pipeline there was something about antibiotics coming for us. I know Rhode Island does that. There's also blood products that are on the road now. There's just a tremendous amount from, just an IV and normal saline fluid. We can give a bunch of different medications for a bunch of different reasons. And that's where it comes, the EMT and the paramedic. It's really just the knowledge base. The skills are, you can teach anybody to start an IV. It's fairly, the skills are fairly simple. It's technique.
So you just brought up Rhode Island. Rhode Island, they're cardiac.
Yeah.
That's the difference between Massachusetts and Rhode Island, correct?
That is. So Massachusetts doesn't have a cardiac. So I don't understand that the Rhode Island certifications terribly well, but the cardiac is kind of the equivalent to our advanced EMTs, but the cardiac can give more medications, more cardiac medications there in the monitor. So they're a cross between an EMT and a paramedic, but has more cardiac med at their disposal than an EMT or an advanced EMT in Massachusetts.
So one of the big ones that you guys prepare for is like the feast at the gates of Portugal, the Great Feast of the Holy Ghost. And I know because I've worked with you guys, there's like EMA side and EMS side.
I tend to usually close.
It's a lot of preparation, scheduling for the guys to be there and the young women to be there. People don't realize what scheduling and the planning that goes into that. Can you explain that a little bit, LT?
Well, that plan for the feast never stops. It's year round.
Yeah.
So as soon as the feast stops from the prior year, we're already planning for the next year. We go back and we go, all right, what did we use? What did we didn't use? What can we use? And then the next year we come in. Years ago, I want to say it was like 2016-ish, we saw the need for bicycles, some sort of mobile way to get through the crowd, as opposed to the ambulances used to show up and then they grab their stretcher and then they walk through a crowd over the grass. Stretcher with a patient on it is heavy. So we ended up with the bicycles to get in there and treat first aid. We ended up with 2 electric bicycles at one point. Those go to the parade and the feast. We also ended up with a mini ambulance, we call it. It's an ATV 6-wheeler with an ambulance box on the back. It's actually certified as a Class 5 ambulance, which is it's like a non-transport. It can't transport to the ERs, but it can go onto the parade and transport patients and stuff like that. We used to set up all over the parade route back in the day. It used to be, I remember the parade was 4 hours long, it could be, and you would just sit out there. But it's always preparation because there's a huge crowd. There's always a huge crowd. There used to be buses from Canada.
Oh, yeah.
That would come down.
Back in the day, there was thousands and thousands of people there.
Yeah, Kennedy Park would be full, top to bottom.
No, you're talking about parades. The other big parade that we have in the city is the Christmas holiday parade. Yep. And that's a big one because you guys are all over the place as well with that one too, right?
Yeah, we're trying to make more of a showing. I know the last couple of years we've had more and more, but that seems to be that and the Veterans Day Parade. But we like to do that. We like to be out in the public, and it's just fun because we bring our kids, we bring family, and we can all walk in the parade together. I remember when my boys were younger, they would ride in the truck with me, like sit on my lap and wave to people, and they loved it. Yeah, they loved it.
I know because MEMA requires me to have a command center, as you know.
Yep.
I'm with you guys most of the time. So this year, because of the parade, because what's going on throughout the entire world and the country, I had to have a command center, an evacuation plan for the Children's Holiday Parade as well. Something that I had never did before, but now I had to do it this year, which we had it set up. But everything's changing. So you work closely with the hospitals also on MCI incidents. So talk about that a little bit, LT.
So when you have an MCI, you have many, many patients. Now, when they need to go out and they need to be treated, where are they going? They're going to the ER. So you can't bring them all to, you could, but you don't want to bring them all to one ER. You're going to overwhelm the staff and the patients aren't going to get the care they need. So what we would do is the EMS command on the MCI, they would delegate someone to talk to Bristol CMed, which would control our bed counts. They would contact the local hospitals and they would initiate an MCI and they would say, how many beds can you take? And the hospital would come back and they'd give us a bed count. So then that would come back to command on the EMS side on the grounds, and then they would delegate. Okay, and then there's 4 categories. There's red, which is immediate, yellow, which is delayed, green, which is, we call them the walking wounded. They can pretty much go, and then black is expectant. So the reds have to go immediately. So if Charlton says, I have 4 beds. I don't want to send them 4 red patients. That's going to overwhelm them. I'll send them 1 red patient and maybe 2 yellows. So that's how it delegates these patients to certain places so that we don't overwhelm their resources, because it's an MCI. We're already overwhelmed. We don't want to continue that, that involvement into the ER. So we have to delegate whether patients can go to St. Luke's, Rhode Island, and in an MCI it broadens our capacity because majority of the time we can't leave the city except for traumas. We'll go to Rhode Island or we'll go to St. Luke's. Rhode Island is our burn center. And there's all sorts of rules about where you can go too, but we would get these patients to the appropriate places with trying not to overwhelm. And during Gabriel House, both hospitals were phenomenal with the way we worked together. We'd call and we'd say, we have this many patients, and they're like, we have that many beds. So both hospitals were phenomenal. I think we took 1 patient out of the state. We went to St. Luke's, I believe, but other than that, everybody else went to a local hospital and was treated.
You know, talking about Gabriel House once again, I know when I think Lieutenant Blackburn, I think it was him, that called the ambulance task force in right away. He saw the need of it, and they had more ambulances there, and within 15, 20 minutes,
at one point,
it was unbelievable, all lined up, ready to take patients. And but I have to always say that we're very proactive when it comes to public safety. Each fire, police, EMA, EMS, we know what to do. And when we had the railroad meeting for South Coast Rail, everybody knows now what they have to do. If we should have a major derailment down there, which may never happen, but we're all on board with what to do. Scheduling, I mean, that must be a lot of work, scheduling all your paramedics and EMTs and...
Terrible. It's one of the most complicated things, I think, of the job. It's just, you have, like I said, you have roughly 120 people. You have vacations, you have sick days, you have personal days, you have sick incentive days. So you have a lot of people taking time off, and you have to either rearrange trucks, providers on trucks, because our frontline trucks always have a paramedic on them. You might have a paramedic and an EMT, but you'll always have a paramedic. So if the scheduling error happens, or if just backfilling happens and there happens to be 2 EMTs on a frontline truck, they're immediately split up and they're given a paramedic partner, whether they have to change trucks or whatever it may be. But there's a lot, and we try and plan out, they try and plan out about a month or so in advance. Otherwise, if you're trying to fill it last minute, it gets messy, and there's just people swapping over. But yeah, the scheduling could be its own full-time job.
Is that you do the schedule as well, or?
No, well, I kind of do it, but it's mostly...
the captain and...
Yeah, it's Captain Lambert and Lieutenant Levesque, and they do a lot, but yeah.
Yeah, so Lieutenant Levesque, he works at Government Center, right, from that office?
Yeah, yep, he's on the 4th floor in professional standards.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now, who works on the fire headquarters besides yourself? I know it's Amanda, the captain.
Yep, it's Captain Lambert. It is myself. It is Captain Beth Ferguson and Lieutenant Mike Finnegan. Finnegan and Ferguson are both the training officers, and Lambert and I are both the operations officers. And then there's a billing clerk in there as well. And the EMT school is there too. Mm-hmm. They teach the school there, which is at capacity at the moment. So it's at 13 students. At the moment, it was, I believe we have a 100% pass rate. We had 15 new EMTs come in through the last 2 programs. This is class 3, so we're looking forward to putting out new providers, and hopefully they can change the world for the better.
Yeah. How long have you been an EMT and paramedic for LT?
Fall River. I just completed my 16th year in September. I'm in my 17th year, and I believe it's either, I'm recerting, so it's either 20 or 22 years in the field.
Wow, long time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, too long sometimes, but yeah, it's. But I love what I do. I really enjoy it.
The thing is, you need people like you who have the experience, because these young people learn from people like you, right?
Right. Well, that's. Oops, sorry, go ahead.
No. To be, it's not. Unfortunately, someday it's going to be all young people. By the time they catch up to your 17 years, they're only going to have, for an example, maybe 10 years on. Yeah. But they don't have the experience that you've had over the years of seeing different patients and stuff. So, experience counts.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we just started doing is it's like a little tips and tricks that we send out, and it's the old timers. They're giving tips and tricks, like the longboard, how the straps just kind of flop around, you trip on them. There's a certain way to string it up so that the straps stay connected, and these are things that the newer generations doesn't know. So you don't look silly running down the street or walking down the street with a board and then trip over the straps. So you just do these 2-minute things, and it saves you so much time.
That's where experience counts.
Right, and that's what we're trying to spread. We're trying to stop the culture of the bullying and all the old culture, and we're trying to bring in a new generation of educate, don't belittle.
Thank you, LT. I think we had a good conversation, and
absolutely,
people enjoyed the show.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much, and that does a wrap for our view on public safety.